Los Angeles Clippers done building around Kawhi Leonard? Well, Los Angeles Clippers staffer would have you believe that. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And is Kawhi Leonard one of the worst NBA acquisitions of all time? We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk about Michael Porter Jr. trade being named as one of the most underrated moves of the offseason. Do I agree with that? We'll talk about that. And Steph Curry says that championship number 5 is loading. We're going to talk about all these things and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And we're going to start off with this one, Kawhi Leonard. It's a lot of talk happening right now around Kawhi Leonard. Some of that including, of course, the aspiration thing, which is a huge thing hanging over the Clippers' head right now. And what's going to happen with Steve Ballmer and the Los Angeles Clippers if the NBA in their own internal investigation finds things that match with what Pablo Torre found. But we're not going to talk about that today. On today's episode, we're going to talk about Kawhi Leonard and the Los Angeles Clippers and things on the basketball court, or what the result is going to be on the basketball court. According to ESPN, Baxter Holmes, he said that he interviewed a former staff member of the Los Angeles Clippers, and they said this: they're done building around Kawhi. They know that, and he knows that. Now, when you look at this thing with Kawhi Leonard, what's the thing that is the biggest question there? Is his inability to stay on the basketball court. When Kawhi Leonard is on the court, there's no doubt about it that he is a damn good basketball player. But unfortunately, since the 2018 season, Kawhi Leonard has only had one season of playing over 65 games. One. That's it. One. And a matter of fact, since the year before he was traded to the Toronto Raptors, which he played 9 games in that season before that with the San Antonio Spurs, Kawhi Leonard has just not been healthy. He's been off the court more than he's been on the court in that amount of time. And that is a problem with the Clippers. And that's something we see a lot of franchises. When you have a player that when they're on the court, they're good. And it makes you want to just keep biding your time and hope that that player is eventually going to be healthy. And a lot of times it never happens. And a lot of franchises get met then with the spot where they have to ask themselves, do we change directions here? Even if that player ends up being on the roster, is it time to change directions and build around something different? Now, with the Clippers, one of the oldest teams in the league. Yes, they added Bradley Beal to this team to replace Norman Powell, things like that. And this is a team that is clearly needs to start getting ready for the next phase of whatever their franchise is going to be. And not building around Kawhi Leonard anymore just makes sense for what they're going to be. Now, let's be clear. The Clippers are still going to be relying on Kawhi Leonard. I don't think they have a spot in which they cannot do that at all, even with the changes that they've made to this roster in the last since the offseason and things like that. But this is still a team that has a lot of questions about what their future is going to look like with assets and things like that. But they've made acquisitions that this team is going to be solid on the court, even without Kawhi Leonard. You brought in Chris Paul, who is still going to be somebody who can still organize the offense, those type of things. He's going to be coming off the bench for the first time in his NBA career. James Harden, when he's able to operate as a high-usage point guard, we already know what the results bring there. You have solid role players. Bogdanovich is still there. Bradley Beal's there. Chris Dunn has seen a resurgent. You got Zubac there. Derrick Jones Jr. was one of the better role players. And you just acquired 27-year-old John Collins as well. So the Clippers have now sacked themselves and got themselves ready for the season. And when Kawhi's there, it's going to be icing on top of the cake. And they're hoping they're going to be able to make a run. But it's clearly now setting up to where the Clippers have to be prepared and ready to go in a different direction and to shift those gears when it's time. And this also comes in a report as well that one rival GM talked about Steve Ballmer and said that he's been urged to get out of the Kawhi Leonard business and the fact that this is a fucking disaster. Direct quote there. That's not me. I know I curse a lot, right? But I think with all this now, and you look at the acquisition, we were asked over on Locked On NBA today, is the Kawhi Leonard acquisition one of the worst in NBA history? And I'll say this. When you look at the results of what happened on the court, you can make that conversation. When you look at all the assets that were included in it, all the money that was spent, you can make that conversation. But I think the icing on that cake could be if the NBA in their investigation with aspiration and Steve Ballmer and the ownership of the Clippers finds out and then finds the Clippers, whether it's draft picks, whatever it is, yes, it's one of the worst deals that you've seen. When Kawhi Leonard joined, the Los Angeles Clippers, and he officially signed with that team in 2019 after winning a title with the Toronto Raptors, it was looked at as, hey, the Clippers could be on their way, right? And it was looked at as it was a price of doing business. You knew Paul George was going to come with him. You made the choice to bring him in there, and it is what it is at that point. He made the choice to sign with the Clippers, but unfortunately now with everything that's come from it, it's tough, right? You got Paul George at that point, who had 3 years, $105 million left on his contract. You paid that as well, right? And so when you look at the price of doing business with Kawhi and getting in on the Kawhi Leonard business, and then the results that you've gotten out of that, there's no doubt to ask yourself that, is this one of the most lopsided acquisitions in NBA history? And I think you're fair for asking that. Now, the question that you have that has to come next in this is, what is the next step now for the Los Angeles Clippers? What is the next phase for this Clippers team? Do they go in full acquisition mode? Do they ride it out with their veterans, let it naturally progress, and then just take their medicine and they're bad for 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it ends up being? We'll see what the future does hold there, but I do think that with everything going on around Kawhi Leonard and all this noise, both on the basketball court, not on the basketball court, whatever it is, that you have to look at this now and ask, what was the price? Really? What was the total price? And that's something we won't know for a while now, but when you look at what the total price was and what the return on that investment was for Kawhi Leonard, especially if your franchise ends up being fined draft picks because of a under the table deal, that's just not things that just bode well. And best believe there are going to be NBA GMs and commissioners and all the type of thing that are going to want blood if that ends up being the case. So, we'll see what happens here. The investigation that the Clippers did have in 2019 in regards to circumventing the salary cap then was different. This one is a completely different place, and we'll see what has to come of it. But Steve Ballmer's going to have to ask himself in the front office, the brass of the Clippers, was it worth it? And I would really be interested to hear if anyone's ever really honest about that, if this was worth it. But with that said, let's move on to the next topic. The Michael Porter Jr. trade was called one of the NBA's most underrated moves by Bill Simmons of The Ringer. Now, Bill has been known to have hot takes before, right? And it is what it is. At the time where Bill Simmons said it was one of the worst trades of the decade for that. And, it is what it is when it came down to it. John Hollinger as well, who was the former vice president of the basketball operations with the Memphis Grizzlies, he called the Brooklyn trade one of this offseason's most underrated moves. So that's the difference of the spectrum that you see when it comes down here. The direct quote here says this is precisely how you're supposed to do it when you have more cap space than talent. Turn that cap space into some truly juicy asset, not just a random late first or second round pick. Getting an unprotected 2032 first round pick from the Denver Nuggets to turn Cam Johnson into Michael Porter Jr. Beautiful. This is from Hollinger. That Denver pick will take a while to deliver benefits, but the upside is undeniable. A lot of the water can go under the bridge in 7 years, but by 2032, Nikola Jokic will be 37. The Nuggets are likely to be at a low ebb after hemorrhaging draft picks to stay competitive in Joker's prime, while avoiding or minimizing their luxury tax payments. The expected value on this pick is high, and here's the other key. It doesn't require the Nets to wait to 2032. That pick is also a very tradable piece if the Nets want to make their own chips in a move at some point between now and then. And I'll say this, Hollinger's right. When you have future picks that when people are going to look at that and say, listen, by 2032, we could be willing to wait that out and say, hey, Jokic could be on the downturn by then. 37 years old. Now we're seeing players, play well into that age now and still be productive. I don't think with Jokic's game, it wouldn't be surprised if his game ages gracefully. But there's a reasonable question to be asked there, is that value going to be worth it? And I love the take that Hollinger has here as far as it's not even just about the draft pick. You can use that draft pick to pair with some other players to then make a move in some other spots as well. And that's the key there, I think, when it comes down to it. So, listen, this trade for Michael Porter Jr. on paper, the Nuggets got better, and the Nuggets got exactly what they wanted. They got better, and they added depth. They added everything that they needed to gear up and try to win more titles while they have Jokic. No harm, no foul there. But for the Nets, they got a future asset while they have already gone younger, right? Have such a young team. Who's to say within the next 7 years that team, that the young players that they have, all they need is one, if two, whatever, ascend at that point in time. Then you can have a pick that you shouldn't have that's going to be higher than where you are right then to do something, or you can use it to acquire a big name player now. So and pair with other things. So there's a great opportunity here that they have right now. And that draft pick, it cost them basically $35 million. That's the difference between Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Johnson's contract. It's just $35 million. Now, that's a lot for any of us, but when you look for an NBA team to have a pick that could convey and be that good at that time, that's some pretty solid value there, I think. So let me know what you guys think on that down below. Let's move into the last topic for today. Steph Curry talked about championship number 5 loading, and of course, Warrior fans are taking that and running with it. Now, this was on a post, when it came down to it, and here's the thing, right? If the Warriors can get their shit together, namely this Jonathan Kuminga thing, right? Because right now they have no depth, and I think a team that's as old as the Warriors, that, when you look at what it meant when you had Dre and Jimmy and Steph on the court together and healthy, that was a good run, right? You need depth, though. And the fact that they have already lost out on Malcolm Brogdon, who could have added some nice depth to that team, got DeAnthony Melton, you got potentially Al Horford, who are all interested in joining this team, as well as others. That's all great, right? But there's going to be a lot that they have to prove on the court. I think the Warriors are going to be a team that can win a lot of regular season games. Can they truly be a championship contender? You don't like to bet against Steph and Jimmy, especially when he gets the playoff Jimmy. He's a player that you don't want to bet against either. But in the Western Conference, that deck is stacked, especially now with the Rockets being what they are. Of course, you got the Oklahoma City Thunder there. The Denver Nuggets read up, and they have solved some of their depth issues that they've had over the last couple of years. So you're looking at those things. And so now it's going to be something that you continue to have to watch and see just how it's going to go for this Warriors team. But the Warriors are going to have a tough go at it. They're going to give every bit of the fight that's needed to try to win a title there. And the question is just the depth. And the question is, can they stay healthy? And we'll see. When you have an older team like the Warriors, you can take nothing for granted or nothing as a given. And so we'll see what happens with that one. But you guys can let me know how you feel on that one down below. I know I said that was the last topic, but I do want to get into this last one real quick before we get out of here. Ian Begley of SNY had a prediction on the Knicks making a pretty big trade where he said this: the Knicks have signed Malcolm Brogdon and Landry Shamet to non-guaranteed contracts ahead of training camp. If they want to keep both players on the regular season roster, they will have to trade one of their players signed to the traditional NBA deal. They need to do this because their team salary cannot exceed the second apron this season. There are many different trade routes the Knicks can take to keep both Brogdon and Shamet. A trade of either Packham Didet or Miles McBride would clear enough cap space to sign the veterans. The Knicks can also trade Tyler Kolek and have enough space under the second apron to sign both Brogdon and Shamet. Now, Tyler Kolek is somebody who was just recently drafted by the New York Knicks, and as a point guard, especially somebody who can operate and be an on-ball creator, he has potential there, right? But do the Knicks want to go less potential and more realized players there, considering that they are gearing up and trying to go on what they hope is going to be a championship run? And that's a tough question that the Knicks have to answer here. So listen, if they were to trade Kolek and then keep both veterans, that will leave them with $44,000 under the second tax apron. They're barely getting by on that, right? And so that could be something that they really do want to look. And we'll see if they do that. The Knicks are going to be an interesting team to watch this year because while their regular season, they didn't have necessarily the best record against above 500 teams. That run that they went on in the playoffs, that's what confidence is built off of. And hopefully they are going to try to ride that confidence down to be a much better team in 2025-26. Can they do it? We shall see. But I'd love to hear from you guys down below on that and all the topics that we covered today. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the number one spot for everything basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.